Hey guys, this is Leeza. So a large part of the reason I started this channel was to normalize conversations around female sexuality. We talk about gender equality in the boardroom, but what about gender equality in the bedroom? Even though we live at a time when women's empowerment and girl power are popular hashtags and we've all agreed that the future is female, we're still extremely quiet about a very important part of the gender equality puzzle, and that is female pleasure. Honestly, even I was apprehensive at first about talking about this topic because, log kya kahenge and all of that. But then I thought, screw it, this stuff is so important and it needs to be talked about. So here goes. I'm going to talk about the female orgasm and why women fake orgasm. So in preparation for this video, I actually talked to a bunch of my female friends about this, and we all admitted that at some point we have all faked an orgasm, and many even admitted that they have faked it 100% of the time. And when you look this stuff up online, you're going to find similar stats. The vast majority of women have at some point faked orgasm, and it's so messed up because think about it, for both men and women, it is messed up that we feel the need to pretend about this stuff, right? Which is why we need to talk about it so we can also work towards changing it. So why do women fake orgasm? It feels like there are two main reasons. Either he isn't doing it right and she just doesn't want to hurt his ego, or is too tired or shy or embarrassed to tell him what to do, and so it's just easier to fake it and get it over with. Or she has never experienced an orgasm and what he's doing probably isn't working, but she doesn't know what's going to take her there either, and so she just fakes it. But how did we get here? How did we, as women from all over the world, reach a point where we are okay with routinely pretending to orgasm rather than bothering to understand and actually seek out the pleasure that we deserve? Also, why do we need them to think they made us come when they didn't? Let's start with where we get our first ideas of sex. If you had the privilege of going to a half-decent school, then you probably sat through a lesson on the reproductive system at some point. And in those biology textbook type of official descriptions of intercourse, we're taught that sex is primarily about reproduction. And for reproduction to occur, we learn that the man has to have an orgasm. So the penis is clearly labeled on the diagrams, but the clitoris doesn't even get a mention. And in this way, men are taught from a young age that they are entitled to pleasure, and there is much less shame around that. Whereas for women, we're taught that sex is about having babies, not orgasms. In this way, we end up internalizing from a really young age that a man's pleasure is more important than a woman's pleasure, if a woman's pleasure even gets any mention at all. But many people don't even get to go to school, and if they do go to school, often there's no lessons on reproduction, since in India there's no proper sex ed. So for many people, instead of just misinformation, there's also a complete absence of information on the subject. For most young people, actually, in the internet era particularly, the first visual reference point for what sex should look like, and this is particularly so for young men, ends up coming from porn. And in the way that sex is depicted in mainstream pornography and explicit movies, it's always made to seem as if whatever's pleasurable for him is also going to be pleasurable for her. Now, these ideas are kind of absurd. So far, what are the lies we've been fed? One, that the guy's pleasure is more important than the girl's, and two, that whatever works for him should work for her. And as a result of this type of conditioning, many women even don't fully understand how the female body really works. Like, I have met so many friends who are educated and, very liberal and have a lot of privilege and access to information, and even they have been shocked to realize that they don't pee from the same hole that they menstruate from. And on top of that, again, thanks largely to pop culture and patriarchy, women are made to feel really embarrassed and sort of ashamed and insecure about their bodies in their natural state. So often we're worried about the size of things and whether they look and taste and smell okay, and about body hair and all of this stuff, even if we do know how our arousal works, that then when we're in a moment of intimacy, instead of focusing on what will bring us pleasure, we're worried about whether everything looks and smells and tastes okay. Plus, sex is made to seem like this act that has to end in orgasm for both partners. Like, if you don't orgasm, there's something wrong with you, or his ego will be hurt. And so there's this pressure as if the ultimate objective is to orgasm. Like, it's not sex if you don't orgasm. The truth is, for many women, sex doesn't always end in orgasm, and for most women, penetration alone is not going to result in orgasm. At least some amount of foreplay and clitoral stimulation is required if she's going to orgasm. But when we don't even get these basic facts right, what is a woman to do? Of course she's going to fake orgasm, given all the garbage that we've been internalizing from such a young age. And because we've learned that our reactions in bed are going to be read by the man as a sort of performance review, instead of being open and self-aware and honest communicators about what works for us, we behave like starstruck cheerleaders. There's this pressure to pretend like you're having the time of your life. Of course we fake orgasm. We need to unlearn all of this. First of all, as women, let's make it a priority to really get to know our own bodies. Like, think about it. As men, every time you go to the bathroom or change or whatever, you get a good look at your own willy. As a woman, you have to lie down with a hand mirror in order to get a good look at what's going on down there. But if that's what we have to do, let's do it. It is worth familiarizing yourself as a woman with your own genital anatomy. Let's take that time to get to know ourselves. There is no shame in understanding your own pleasure and prioritizing your own pleasure and taking the time out to just figure it all out, to figure out your body. Masturbate, buy yourself a dual action vibrator, whatever you like, Think of it as an investment in your own self-awareness and in your own pleasure and well-being. And once you figure out what works for you and what's pleasurable to you, you should also get comfortable communicating that information to your partner. So instead of feeling like you have to sound like a cheerleader, feel free to sound like Google Maps. And to any men watching, I hope you guys can seek out better reference points for what sex should look like than mainstream pornography. There's so much out there written by women about women's bodies. Check that stuff out. There's this amazing app, for example, called OMG Yes. I highly recommend it. It is like the most in-depth study I've ever come across on the female orgasm. I think men and women should check it out. And in general, just if you broaden your reference points, I think the scope of your own love life will become so much more exciting. And for both men and women together, let's encourage each other to communicate. Let's make each other feel comfortable enough to be really honest about what we like, what we don't like, what works, what doesn't. Because if we can get to a point where all sex is consensual and safe and pleasurable, just imagine how much better all our love lives would be. Cheers to no more fake orgasms. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Also, please share it and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time.